Okay. And 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Live.
Boom.
Good to be here.
Absolutely.
So what's going on, man? How you doing?
Episode 4. Doing good. First, I want to give a shout out to Eddie for coming on last episode. Thank you very much. And also, I would like to give a shout out to the Czech Republic.
Yeah?
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, okay.
For the Czech Republic, according to my YouTube analytics, where is it? Oh, the screen was just up. But, here we are. Czech Republic. It is 0.001% of my viewership, and they watched 28 seconds of the first episode. So I just wanted to say thank you to whoever's in the Czech Republic for checking out me talking at a camera for 28 seconds. Thank you very much.
Didn't get past that intro video, though, huh?
They didn't, but the Czech Republic. So actually, YouTube analytics, I have 0.5% Japan, 0.3% India, 0.1% United Kingdom. It's like 0.01% in the United Arab Emirates.
Who are these people?
And 99% in the United States. So I don't know. I think so. India is possible because I know a few people from school, from U of I in India, who I'm Facebook friends with. And then United Arab Emirates, Dubai. I know someone from school, too, that liked the post on Facebook. So it's very possible those are real things. Though the Czech Republic, I don't know. I don't know where that possibly could have came from. So I don't know.
Just as some good organic viewership right there.
Organic viewership.
Got that far reach, man.
The two things I could possibly think of with the Czech Republic would be someone has a proxy server on, like torrenting stuff. So YouTube picks up their IP address in Czech Republic. So I don't know who one of my friends could be doing that. Or someone at work was watching the podcast, and from the third-party servers that their work is using, someone at a corporation, sometimes they do like third-party servers in weird countries because it's super cheap. There's no taxes, whatever corporation a company goes through. So that could be picking up. Or someone from the Czech Republic somehow stumbled upon this, which is hilarious.
That's what I'd like to hope it is.
Yeah, I think we'll just go with that. But yeah, so I just want to give a shout-out to those two, Eddie and the Czech Republic.
Those are the people.
Those are the people that are keeping this alive.
Yeah, keeping the lights on for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Alrighty, let me turn the brightness down there so my face isn't lit up. And okay, all right, cool. So today is going to be a little bit of a mix of an episode. It's going to be a cars episode, and you have the first one. We're going to talk about Ford.
Good old Ford, man. The blue oval.
The blue oval.
So I think we hoped to talk about this on the first episode, but we didn't really get around to it. I don't know if a lot of our viewers are, in on this, but it's obviously a big trend in the automotive industry is that passenger car sales has been on a steady decline for the last decade. With the advent of crossovers, some people can kind of point to like Infiniti being the first back in the early 2000s with the FX. It doesn't matter who was the first to do it. What matters is it's the dominant market right now. And every automaker knows that there's money in SUVs. That's why we see companies like Porsche and Ferrari and even Lamborghini getting in the mix. Mm-hmm. McLaren felt like it was necessary 2 days ago to say that they don't have any plans to build an SUV. That just goes to show that everybody is speculating that who's going to be the next SUV, producer. So going off of that, automakers are finding it's not profitable to put R&D into existing passenger cars that dominated the entire market for, nearly a century. Passenger cars all throughout the 20th century. So the most recent indication that we're, in a serious decline of passenger automobiles is that the president of Ford Motor Company indicated they plan on pretty much ceasing production on all passenger models of their entire U.S. market except for the Ford Mustang and possibly this Ford Focus crossover that they're having come out.
Passenger sedan. So this is more sedan, four-door.
So Ford Fusion is
Ford Fusion, Ford
Focus is gone.
What's the
C-Max?
What's the
C-Max is that weird
Taurus.
hybrid that
Taurus.
they have.
Taurus is already gone though, right?
I think the Taurus might be still on life support.
But it is gone though. It's going to be gone by the end of 2019 model year.
They're probably giving away 2018s with $30,000 off sticker at this point.
Yeah, so
for a Taurus show.
And then another thing, like Subaru with the Legacy, they will be coming out with the 2020 model, but it's rumored that they might not be continuing through a normal 6-year cycle with that. They might be stopping early. Chrysler, the only sedan they have left is the Charger. That's it. The 200's gone. The Dart's gone.
And the Charger isn't very strong.
Yeah.
To
No,
put
it's-
it bluntly,
it's
I mean,
not.
the only thing that the Charger has going for it is the Hellcat.
So-
And that is such a minuscule portion of the market that Dodge is just at this weird point where they've shoehorned themselves into making angry passenger cars that are kind of good, but they're not great. They're in a very weird place right now as far as Chrysler and Dodge go.
Yeah, and from an SUV standpoint, we've seen like in the early 2000s, SUVs were massive. Then '08 hit, oil rise, they fell. But now that oil is getting cheaper and has stayed kind of relatively affordable, it hasn't shot up to $4 for the last 8 years or so.
We had $4 recently.
Did we really?
$4 for premium, yeah. out in the
Oh,
cars.
okay, premium. I'm talking about regular.
Okay,
And
that's a
back in
big
like '08,
differentiation.
regular hit like $4 at one point. And but now, you know, I have a Forester right now, and I had a Ford Escape for a little while. And like the SUV thing, I used to not be a huge fan of SUVs or crossovers or the in between crossover. And there is a sense of you're a little higher up, you get a little bigger, and also, you know, with modern technology, with direct inject or fuel injection and aerodynamics of these new cars, newer tires making it more efficient and less friction on the road.
Transmissions
Crossovers
play a huge factor.
Transmissions, higher geared transmissions,
Better CVTs.
and fuel economy of like SUVs of the past aren't as bad now. So crossovers are getting near
Yeah, because a lot of the
35,
time
36.
they're building the crossovers on the same exact chassis and powertrain as they are their sedans.
Exactly. They're all
And they
all
find
the
that nobody
industry.
wants the sedans because everybody wants the big greenhouse. They feel like it's bigger inside the car. You get 20 more cubic feet of storage space that you can throw a soccer ball in the back seat.
You're higher up. So all of the pluses of an old or sedan versus crossover, or sedan had higher fuel economy, even sometimes lower insurance for some of them. Now have just switched into crossovers. You're fine. So
It's not even like
everything-
your average sedan is much faster than your average SUV now. They're all so similar, and like I mentioned, they all use a lot of the same powertrains.
modular platforms. So they're all
Negligible difference between performance in those
That's-
cars. And the SUV would typically be more comfortable. A lot of times they give them more suspension travel, and I don't know. So this president of Ford basically indicated that SUVs and trucks will become 86% of their market share in the U.S., which is saying something. So that means they're really pushing their fleet vehicles. You know, Ford does a huge program with their transit vans. But soon you're going to go to a Ford dealer, and the only thing you're going to see there is like a Ford Mustang. Everything else
that's
is
the
gonna
only car left.
Right, and everything else is going to be small crossovers and F-150s and F-250s.
Yeah.
So
and
Ford, one of the big three, one of the biggest automakers in the world, taking this step, who's going to be the next to follow suit? Is the big question.
Subaru,
You think?
the legacy that it seems like it's going to get nixed in the next.
You think they're going to nix the Impreza WRX platform? That's like their bread and butter.
Legacy
with
is
youth
legacy
enthusiasts.
is the smallest. So here's the thing: the American automakers have basically gotten rid of the car. You have the Charger, Chevy. The Cruze is gone, right? Or
The Cruze is still around, I believe.
then they have what's that one? The new one that replaced the Sonic, the Trax or something.
Or the Aveo. No, the Aveo's
Aveo's gone. No, it's called like the Chevy Trax or something. That's like the Aveo replacement.
Something terrible.
Yeah,
Some
something
GM
that
shit.
they probably put in the next Transformers movie. But
It's going to be played in a racist part, too, like they did in the third Transformers movie.
what they do in the third Transformer?
It was either the second or the third one, but they had those like little tiny Chevy Sparks
Yeah,
and
the
stuff, and
Sparks,
they made
yeah.
them like very stereotypically like racist characters, and they took a huge backlash for that.
I do remember that actually. But yeah, but here's the thing: the Japanese industry is going strong. Honda, Civic, Toyota Corolla, Hyundai Sonata.
Nissan Altima,
Those are in the Nissan Sentra or the what's it called, the Versa.
the Sentra, the Versa.
The Versa Sentra's gone. Really?
Sentra's still around. The Sentra's actually pretty nice these days, dude. CVT,
Versa-
four banger.
Either way, so all the Japanese and the Koreans are doing fine with sales.
But have you
for the
noticed that
most
all
part.
those cars you just mentioned are getting bigger?
They're much bigger, yeah.
Compare a Corolla from 2001 to a new one, and you'd think you have an Avalon parked next to it. I mean, everything has gotten so much bigger, which is why we need some automaker to do the opposite thing that everybody thinks that they want them to do and build a cheap car, not a ton of electronics, make it simple, keep
that's
it simple,
why
stupid,
Honda
make
brought
it
in
cheap
the
and
Fit.
reliable.
Honda brought in the Fit. The Fit is the same size as the Civic from 2000. But the thing is, the fit's getting bigger too. '06 was the first year of the fit, I believe, and now the new fits are a little bigger, but they're not far off of like kind of almost
They're getting
a
close to
Civic.
CRV territory.
Yeah, and now Toyota or Honda has the CRH and Toyota has the HRV, or did I switch those around? I think the Toyota CRH. I forget which one it is, but those are just selling like hotcakes. It's insane.
I'm seeing them all over the city.
So yeah, I mean the future, and me considering the only sedans I look at now, 4-door cars, like the typical cars you'd call it, would be like German M3s and like C63s, like sport cars. Other than that, like if I'm like, God, I kind of need to be like realistic with my money, Ford Escape, Subaru Forester, like chill car, they're all SUVs or crossovers.
It depends on when you get into enthusiast pricing territory.
True, I mean that's why I'm buying used.
Right.
At that point. But again, the only cars I look at are just high performance cars. I don't look at, it's like if I'm looking at a Subaru Legacy or a Forester and I can get a Forester for $2,000 more, it's like you get so much more room. You get maybe 2 MPGs less. It's like, why would you buy a Legacy?
Better long haul kind of car.
Better
more storage.
Better for winter. Like everything. It literally crosses every single check mark except for maybe 1 or 2 MPGs less on the highway. Other than that, that's it.
Yeah, Porsche's killing it with the Macan. The new Cayenne just came out. They sell a shit ton of those.
The Macan Cayennes are the 2 biggest models, pretty much. So.
Well, the Panamera, I believe, is their top-selling model.
That's the top.
But I'm pretty sure the Macan is definitely encroaching on that number because, goddamn, if I don't see a lot of Porsche Macans out there in the everyday world.
Audi, Q5, Q3.
SQ5. There's a demand for the SQ5. I see a lot of. So now we're seeing, performance crossovers out, and it's
The Mercedes GLC, GLC 43, all those are all AMG'd up now. It's like, yeah, the future is just crossovers, which I'm used to be a 4-door sedan guy. Now I'm like, crossover. They do everything.
Look at anywhere else in the world. It's really not like that.
True, but that's because we're America. So that's why we got tricked. Americans got tricked in the crossovers because like we want an SUV, but we're poor. So we need to save on MPGs and insurance and everything else. So we're like, oh, this little tiny box car, it is an SUV. It's like,
But
no,
it's still a car.
It's modularly. They just like took the exact same like frame as a Ford Focus, where we stretched it out a
We
tiny
raised the
bit.
suspension by 100 millimeters.
And there you go. You have a Ford Escape. Done.
Better differential.
Same thing. So we got tricked into the crossovers. But that's
The greatest duping in automotive history, I declare.
I do declare.
I do declare. Well, yeah, so that's shit. That sucks. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm just sad to see weird cars like the Ford Focus RS go. Because, I mean, I feel like we just got that, and now it's being yanked away. So the used market isn't going to be as flooded as I would have hoped. My buddy Alex got one of those brand new, and he's stoked right now because he's like, well, my car just got a lot rarer, with this announcement, because that means there's not going to be any future ones to replace it.
And the Focus RS is a extremely high performance version of the little Focus sedan that a lot of people and maybe you viewers might
We're talking
own.
about a car that MSRP is like in high teens, low 20s for the cheapest version, and then
and
you
it
can
goes
option
into
this.
40 something.
Yeah, you can option it up into the high 40s.
Yeah, but it can just take out an incredible amount of cars that are worth way more than it, on a track conditions. But so yeah, that's Ford. Those are crossovers, SUVs, us Americans. We've kind of changed the market, and the companies have had to adjust to us consumers.
Adapt and overcome. So another thing that's kind of cool I want to talk about is Pebble Beach just happened. For anybody that doesn't know, Pebble Beach is essentially the pinnacle in automotive, display. It's a great place for everyone to kind of go and show off their collection. People get dressed up really nice. It's really, an exclusive event, and automakers use it as a stage to debut newer high-end automobiles and concepts, and just kind of like that's where the whole world is focusing on during that show, because everybody who's anybody is there. And Audi, who I'm a fan of, just unveiled a new concept. A new concept. It's called the PB18 e-tron. So Audi has teased e-trons to us for years now, starting back with the R8 e-tron. E-tron being Audi's denomination for all-electric powertrain, no internal combustion. So they had the Audi e-tron the Audi R8 e-tron concept a few years back, and they debuted it as a possible car, and they really made it seem like it was going to be something right around the corner. But one thing led to another. It saw different stages of development, different stages of potentially coming to full production. It hasn't seemed like it really has happened. But Audi, is proving to us that they're not completely, giving up on the full electric goal of having an electric performance car in the market. So they gave us this bonkers shooting brake style, single-seater, electric badass car that's going to have like 670 horsepower with potential overboost, and they're talking it's going to potentially use solid-state batteries, which don't even exist yet. So this goes back to the whole electric car concept of, well, we want to do this, but the tech isn't there yet, but maybe in a couple years it will be, and we'd love to do it. But they're saying like 0 to 60 in sub 2 seconds. It's going to be bonkers if it comes out. And it's a shooting brake, which is very cool, and nobody's really doing that right now.
Yeah.
So I'm, props to Audi for mixing it up and, not, producing just another generic hybrid supercar, type competitor, which is where everyone's going. They're willing to, try to put it out there and go for full electric. McLaren was teasing recently that there's a chance they may be full electric in the next like 5 to 10 years, which is frightening to me. But if they can make it work, I don't know. I like internal combustion. We had this talk on, I think, the first or the second one, but
First one. I'm all about hybridization.
I mean, I'm about hybridization, but
Full
electric, no sound.
Nothing. It's not as visceral.
Visceral experience.
I listened to the first podcast. We said visceral like 14 times within like a 10-minute period.
I'm just going to go ahead and drop that word out of my
we gotta
vocabulary.
take that out. Visceral. Yeah, I mean, props to Audi. Shooting brake. I wish wagons were more popular here. A lot of people just don't buy wagons here in the United States. That's like here.
We don't get them.
Naked. It's like me for motorcycles. I love naked bikes. I like seeing the engine stuff. But here we're just like, for some reason, we were just like, oh, it's not manly enough. You need the cowls, you need all the aerodynamics. Here with wagons, they just think wagons are a mom mobile. It's like, no, they're cool mobiles. Darn it.
I want more wagons.
I want
Bring
more
us
wagons. Wagons. We all love wagons. But non-car people do not like wagons, which is sad. But I mean, the concept looks cool. I'll throw a picture up of it, and we'll get it up there. Yeah, it'll be. That's gonna be an expensive car. That's gonna be like $250,000, $300.
Yeah, the interesting part is, are they going to price it above a V10 Plus R8, or is it going to be priced below? My guess is probably be priced above.
Way above.
More exclusive, newer tech.
Yeah.
Electric.
Definitely above. But yeah.
It would be badass. They are claiming it would have potentially some sort of like a 310-mile range, and I don't know. This car, in all reality, is never going to come out in its current form, but if some of that technology trickles down into a future model that does contain the same powertrain and alleged 2-second 0 to 60 time that Audi's teasing and Tesla's been teasing with their Roadster.
Dude, that Tesla Roadster I've seen more at 1.9 seconds.
Yeah.
0 to 60. That is 2.67 Gs. I looked this up a little while ago.
That's violent, dude. You got to have your neck in the rest.
Oh, yeah, I looked it up. I looked up the roller coaster Gs for the new Six Flags roller coaster. What do I look up? G-force speed, accelerator converter? I don't know what
Acceleration.
G-force calculator. Yeah, starting speed 0, ending speed 62 miles per hour. Nope, not meters per second. Miles per hour. Time 0, 1.9. Boom. Acceleration.
This is exciting.
Calculate. Meow. 1.49 Gs. Maybe it wasn't that roller coaster that Six Flags like 0 to 76 miles an hour in like 2 seconds.
Six Flags said 0 to 78 in under 2 seconds.
That was the 1.7 Gs pull or 1.8 Gs pulling. But anyway, 1.5 Gs in a car. Woo.
That'll fuck you up.
Lateral acceleration. That's
for the record. That is
back.
more G-force than the car could possibly generate by braking. So that means you're accelerating harder than the car could possibly ever stop itself under full braking forces.
And yeah, so most cars, so your general sedan, really any normal just car, maybe not SUVs, but general car, when you slam on the brakes, that's about 0.95 to 1 Gs of lateral acceleration.
One, like, usually topping it out.
One topping. That's
unless
like,
we're getting into, like, Koenigsegg, like, insane hypercar
or like supercars, Lambos and stuff, they can go a little higher. But your general, like, Honda Civic, that's about 1 G in lateral forces. And, like, if anyone's ever slammed the brakes on a car, that's uncomfortable. It, like, jerks you. Your seatbelt goes off. It's like, ugh, and you feel your face get, like, flustered. Like, it's a strong experience. So imagine 1.5 the other way into your seat, And that's enough. You will feel your face like actually go back into your like it's
That's why every time you've seen one of those videos with the Tesla engineers that do the guest rides in the Roadster, the first thing they say is, "All right, is your head against the support?" And the people are always like, "Oh, okay."
and then they just get slammed.
Yeah, half a second later, they're like, "Oh, that's why he said that.
Yeah.
I'm in incredible pain right now. My body's being jostled."
Yeah, that cars are getting fast. Cars are getting fast. I doubt though that the Six Flags ride. I saw that article. I saw 1 million people on Facebook post about it. That is a lot of mass you have to move.
Let me tell you one thing. This
Tell me one
technology
thing.
has existed for like a decade now.
Yeah,
and
electromagnetic acceleration. That's
use
what
the-
they're using. And V2, they use the same acceleration or the same technology to accelerate, and it has to be the same way. There's no way you can accelerate anything else. You can't do it with cables.
How does a launch deck on a aircraft carrier work?
Those are with cables and electromagnetic as well.
Okay, because I thought they used the same technology. There was that one ride, I think it might have been Cedar Point or something that came out years ago. It was like Top Fuel Dragster or something, and that was the world record. And that was like 0 to 70 in like about the same performance figures we're expecting to see from this.
I remember when one of those was cable driven too. It was cable and like steam driven or something.
All I gotta
like
say
that.
is
And
don't underestimate the roller coaster engineers, man. All these weird European companies that get contracted to build this stuff, those guys are some wizards.
they are, but
I was at Six Flags 2 days ago with Casey, and that just like reminded me how kooky some of those rides are, man.
yeah,
time.
it's amazing. But 0 to 7 or 0 to 78, 0 to 80 miles an hour in under 2 seconds. That's.
I'll be there.
I mean, yes, I will too. That's a lot of engineering, and those rides break down all the time. Like I don't know. I'm not worried if it's electromagnetic. There's no real danger because it's just
There's no moving parts.
It just bugs out and it just won't go. But at Cedar Point, there's an old video of like a cable snapping. It takes a kid's leg off, and it's kind of sad to watch. So I don't like cables. There's so much tension in cables. It's scary. Like those little tiny.
This is why Steven refuses to go on any suspension bridge.
Dude, cables are they're really thin. They can like a tiny thin, 1/4-inch cable can hold like 80,000 pounds or like 60,000 pounds, something ridiculous. And you're like, whoa. But if that snaps, like that shit is something like that. 60. You're doubting me right now.
Well, I mean, you're the engineer. You guys did do the
know.
testing where you pulled shit apart with that
tensile
robot.
tensile forces. A lot of material can handle a shit ton of force. You don't really realize like something as big as your pinky. You're like, wait, that can pick up like a fire truck if like taken slowly up and there's no like more accelerative force.
What are you talking, like braided steel or something
Yeah,
here?
they can hold a lot of force, but if that snaps, ouch! You don't want to be anywhere near that. That'll go right through your body, just like cheese grater. They'll screw you up. But
So we'll stick with electromagnets then. I like
yes.
that.
Yes, that's
Less
the
chance of bifurcation.
word of the day: bifurcation.
Be bifurcated.
Bifurcated biscuits.
Yeah.
Yes. So, what were we talking about? What was the original?
We're talking about acceleration of cars and then
yeah.
crazy roller coasters and anything that uses electromagnets is pretty cool. But off that topic, why are we not seeing more maglev trains these days? I feel like that was supposed to be the huge trend, and China was like, leading the world with their maglevs, and that was supposed to be the future. And where I don't see any new maglevs being built anywhere, as far as I'm concerned, or like have seen in the news.
Here
as
in
far
the
as
United
that
States, we have built our infrastructure off of roads. We own so many cars. Our streets, the infrastructure, I can't say that right now, for streets is massive. So that's why America's built around the car, the automobile. And this started in the early 1900s and on. Whereas in Europe,
locomotive and then automobile.
locomotive, then automobile, but automobile took over and just skyrocketed. That's why we have roads everywhere. Whereas in Europe and in Asia, with much smaller land mass and higher populations, it's a lot more dense. You can't own as many cars. So that's why public transportation in Europe and in Japan and China is just incredibly developed compared to the United States. And traveling far distances, getting across the country. I remember I watched something about why we don't have maglev trains from like here to New York or something like that. And it's just we haven't invested in infrastructure for it. The amount of cost would be very, very high, and Americans don't want to pay that. Where we already have Amtrak, we already have train systems like that, where it's cheaper.
The problem is when we were building our superhighways back in the 50s and 60s, when America was really first doing their National Highway Act, trying to go coast to coast and everywhere, while we're doing that, everywhere in Europe is building their subways and their high-speed rail and everything.
So we built our country off oil.
Right, and the problem is that our country has, I don't know the exact figure, but it's something like hundreds of thousands of miles of existing railroad, and the idea of modifying all of that or portions of that to make it, retrofit that to some sort of maglev or a hover train or anything like that, it's just out of the question. So the only thing that makes sense for American rail is to improve based off of what our current restrictions are, and that's existing railroads that have been around for a century.
So unfortunately, there will be more than likely, not for a very long time, and we just feasibly like. Do you want to be building a maglev from here to New Orleans or here to LA? Like,
I'd rather have something wackier like the Hyperloop or something like. I want something crazier.
Yeah, but
yes,
I don't.
Honestly, I would. Every time I have to take the stupid metro from Union Station to Lake Forest or wherever I'm going, and I'm going 60, I'm like, this would be so much cooler if we were going faster. But then again, we have to factor in stops and this and that.
And that's the maglev. But also, air travel isn't horrifyingly expensive as long as you pay beforehand if you wanted to go to LA or New York. So is building tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars. I don't know what it would take to build a maglev from here to New York or here to LA.
It'd be insane.
That's not worth it.
No, and especially when you consider that existing trains for shitty old technology a lot of times are more expensive if you buy a ticket from here to LA. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure I read it somewhere that a ticket from here to LA for a train would not be an advantage over buying an airplane ticket, which would take a third of the time, and
that's why we don't have
much quicker.
Well,
I just want floating trains, dude.
You brought up the highways going from coast to coast. Do you know why those were built and when they were built?
Did it have something to do with being able to land a plane on the highway in case of like an attack?
That could work too, but it actually was after World War I we started building those, and right before World War II we accelerated building those, was in case we had Japan and Germany on the East Coast, Japan on the West Coast, we had to take tanks and troops all the way across the country within 2 days or less, having a highway system that just had one highway all the way across, subjugated just to our military. That's why we built those.
There was definitely something about having certain portions of the highway, that are straight enough where they could land, like Air Force One if they had to.
I do remember that too, yes. Those are other reasons why we built that, but one of the big ones was to transport military from coast to coast as quickly as possible by ground, because back then we didn't have like C-117s and C-5 Galaxy huge jets to
just load everything in.
So back then, before the 70s, was if you needed to get 20,000 tanks, boom, just drive them across the coast all within 2 days.
That's so
nice. You're getting beer?
I'm getting a brewski.
Okay, Matthew. Goodbye. So.
What is the future of transportation in our country?
The Hyperloop would be cool, but I don't think we need that. I mean, I like the idea of it in Chicago, but no, wait, hold on. Is it the Hyperloop in Chicago? I forget.
So
I had an argument on Facebook about this. That I got in a huge argument about the ethical dilemmas around the Hyperloop.
I remember that. So Hyperloop is something that they were planning on developing something around the West Coast. Excuse me. But I do remember recently Chicago bidding two companies between the Boring Company, Elon Musk's, and some other company to build a high-speed rail to basically circumvent the Blue Line to take you from Chicago to O'Hare. So that's like, I would say on the Blue Line, what does that take, like 30 minutes from the loop to get to O'Hare?
I've never taken it. It's something, I remember in the article it said.
So they're saying that this would cut that, into a fraction of that time.
It's 12 minutes. It was supposed to be 12 minutes from the loop, wherever it would be locating the loop to the O'Hare.
So I'm cool with that. I think that would be cool. Do we need it right now? Is there a huge demand for it? Are there tons of people that are backing up the Blue Line going to O'Hare? I'm not sure.
If populations get bigger and bigger, but then in the stipulation was it had to be under the price or even with the price of a ride share, so equivalent $35 Uber from downtown. That was another stipulation of the bid.
I love that because that's what I typically take to go to O'Hare.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Transportation is fascinating because it always tends to reflect where we are as a civilization at the moment that it's being developed. I mean, like most technologies do, but it's interesting to see how some countries tend to be more forward-thinking and others just kind of want to adapt to what existing infrastructure they have. But Yeah, transportation's always cool.
Yeah. That's what our entire podcast is about.
Cars. I'm going to flip the page on that one, and I want to talk about NASCAR, my least fucking favorite racing series that exists. NASCAR was cool, like, back in the day.
Really quick, I just checked the camera. No one can see your face. It's very dim. You might have to take your hat off, Matt.
Should I take my hat off?
Take your hat off.
All right, sorry.
I can't see. I looked back. I couldn't see your face. Boom. Look at that. Now I could see you.
Hang on, let me adjust these guys real quick.
Boom.
Am I beautiful?
Done.
Cool.
You're always beautiful. Stop it.
Thanks, man.
Stop.
So NASCAR, the series that got started by moonshiners trying to run liquor away from the cops as quickly as possible, that developed into America's premier motorsport series that defined American racing for decades, has been on a decline since basically 2007, when they basically hit their peak as far as marketing and advertising goes. I think NASCAR, first, we both think NASCAR sucks. I mean, just to put it bluntly, like,
Yeah.
I think it has its cool aspects. You know, the fact that they built these super speedways that can hold 100,000 people, and they have, you know, tons of marketing and this and that they push into their sport. But the reality is that compared to other options, it's boring. And I think they've lost a huge chunk of their fan base, and their viewership numbers have been on a decline. And the biggest indicator of that is that companies are having a hard time finding sponsorships. Whereas, you know, 10, 15 years ago, major corporations, like, there was some insane percentage of Forbes 500 companies that, like, almost like a majority of them had some sort of involvement in sponsorship of a NASCAR team. It was pretty much standard practice. Now it's really hard for teams to find sponsors. And I read earlier that this NASCAR team, the former Monster Energy NASCAR Series champions, are basically shutting their team down this year because they can't find a new sponsor. Their sponsor is 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour decided that it wasn't lucrative for them to pay the sponsorship anymore, and they decided to pull out. This team doesn't want to take out a loan to fund their own racing endeavors, so they're folding. And that's insane. When a team that literally was a champion last year, we're not talking about 10 years ago, we're not talking about 20 years ago, this is a team that is fresh off a championship that can't even secure a sponsor for their own series.
Yeah.
That's messed up. So
I wonder how big is 5 Hour Energy as a company? Actually, is 5 Hour Energy owned by another company? Anyway, I'll look that
that's a thing for a different time, or if you want to look that up. But I mean, that's an indicator that something is seriously wrong when teams are folding over sponsorship issues the year after they win a championship.
Yeah.
We're talking about Furniture Row Racing, by the way. That was the winning team. So I don't know. I think NASCAR needs to redevelop a lot of their strategy. They built all these super speedways in the early 2000s, and now they have a hard time filling them. Nobody wants to come to their events. Sponsors are dropping out left and right. Viewership numbers are down. They need to, like, wake up and just change something about their series drastically. You know, maybe if they could ditch the entire stock car, you know, frame. You know, the cars, basically, the original reason NASCAR was so popular is it was a buy it, or excuse me, you know, see it race Sunday, buy it Monday type mentality. You could see a car that basically resembled what you'd be buying off the lot at a dealership, competing at the highest degree on a racetrack, balls to the wall, you know, flat out racing. Nowadays, we're talking, you know, little tiny fiberglass carbon fiber shells over essentially uniform chassis and suspension setups.
Yeah.
With basically the same big block motors in them, or small blocks, if I'm not sure even. Powerful V8s driving around. If they could figure out a way to get back to having just like stock Mustangs and Challengers and whatever,
Camaros and whatever else.
And figure out a way to put full cages, you know, make them as safe as possible. And who cares if they lose, you know, 50 mile an hour top end speed, or if it be, you know, but if it can be more competitive, there's more close racing instead of the single file that NASCAR's become from every highlight reel I've ever watched. It's just a bunch of cars racing in a straight line. There's hardly any passing.
Yeah, I still don't understand NASCAR as like how the competitive, like, it has to be with like slipstreaming behind cars and stuff. I just don't care enough.
Yeah, and they get into dirty air when they're next to each other. And
yeah, which is fascinating from an aerodynamic standpoint. I love aerodynamics. That's why I love Formula One and learning about the aerodynamics of those cars. But yeah, NASCAR's just silhouette cars with just names printed
big
on
V8s
them.
and 4-speed transmissions. And
All they are.
there's a degree of that being cool because there's a driver skill that comes into play, but because all the cars are just the way they are, it seems like there's, like, once you get out ahead, you're you can be out there.
Here's the thing: there already are series though. There's the entire WeatherTech. What's the Continental series, which do have Mustangs,
The
Camaros,
sports car
Acuras, Audis.
Acura does not compete in that series.
Well, Continental, the Acura SXs. I'm just saying those series are very similar. They have very, very similar cars.
Right, but we're not talking oval track racing.
True.
We're talking
the
road races.
The issue with oval track is that they don't turn right and it's boring.
For some people, they love that though, because that means they can know exactly where the cars are going to be at any point on the track.
Well, that's why they're down south, IQ down, so they can understand, they can grasp that car's in front. That's it.
Yeah,
it's like yeah, I don't know. They need to do something with NASCAR. These sponsorship issues. It is interesting that an entire team rides off of like their one main sponsor, and if they're gone, they're gone.
It's kind of like the unwritten rule of NASCAR. We agree to turn our vehicle into a driving billboard for your company, and you agree to basically sponsor us, provide all the costs it takes to transport a car and additional parts all over the country, and it's a huge endeavor.
Wait a second.
Are you saying that we should buy a NASCAR team?
Yeah.
All right, let's go, dude.
Well, let's see. How much is a NASCAR team? How much does it take to run? Because let's do this. Then realistically, how much would it take to sponsor like a little sticker on a car from a series that's really small? Because we probably don't have too much money together. Come on, get those brains. Because if we can sponsor a NASCAR team, holy shit! Wait, I'm sorry, people from the South. Your IQs are just way up there. Don't worry about what I just said about you guys. Love our team, watch our team, root for our team. It's going to be, how much does it take?
So people are talking about...
Did you find it?
I'm looking. I don't want to read off the wrong number here.
Read a ballpark number.
We're talking in the $10 million range easily.
Okay, hold on. Let's rethink our financial situation here.
All right, maybe we could do like a helmet sticker.
Yeah, we can maybe do a helmet sticker. Oh, where it's like a camera on the sticker.
Yeah.
Cars that have everything in between. We could do that. That's got to be... That's still a lot of money.
All right, well, we'll reach out to the NASCAR...
the 5-Hour Energy team.
Yo! Hey, we
got a solution for you.
We have an idea for you.
Yeah, there we go. Dude, we just solved all our issues with our 21 subscribers on YouTube and the 14 people that like my Facebook page. Thank you, all those people out there.
We're going to be huge.
Yes! Cheers. We solved it all. 5-Hour Energy team. We're going to take over.
Seems like a plan.
I've never heard a better plan. Never in my life. Sound done. There we go.
So NASCAR's fucked, but what's not fucked is the new Corvette mid-engine car. That's gonna be badass. Corvette basically has kind of pushed their limits as far as what they can do with a front-engine rear-wheel drive sports car. The ZR1, as fantastic as that car is, 750 horsepower, crazy aero, it's a lot of kit, but the general consensus when I'm read from a lot of the reviewers is that is it really worth a price jump over a Z06 when the performance gains are not that substantial, maybe to substantiate the difference in price between those two cars, and everyone's kind of agreeing that maybe it's not worth it, which is why GM has finally decided to build the mid-engine Corvette that's been rumored for 2 decades now. Everyone's been saying, when's GM building a mid-engine Corvette? When are they going to do it? So GM's coming out with the mid-engine Corvette finally, and we do know for sure that there's going to be multiple engine options. We also don't know exactly what those will be, but there's going to be either a naturally aspirated V8 or a twin turbocharged V8. We know that because Cadillac recently applied for a patent for, I believe it's a 5.5 liter twin turbo motor. And then also Corvette confirmed that there will be an all-wheel drive variant that's possible. So think about that for a second. We're going from the ZL1 all the way up to potentially having a twin turbo V8 all-wheel drive mid-engined Corvette. That's crazy. That's like jumping 2 complete series in automotive potential in, one model generation. I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We already had this talk last time, though. Do you remember this?
Sorry, I'm just very excited for this car to come out. I just want to, every bit of information that comes out on this car, I'm very excited.
In episode 2, was it episode 2? Yeah, episode 2 we touched upon like that and like the similarities between Lexus maybe and the hybrids and the what's it called, the LC 500, and like what could Corvette do, and like make two different types of cars. But it's fine. It's time for Corvette to go mid-engine, and I'm excited. There's Nürburgring spy shots of it the other day, and it seems to be pretty stable looking and everything. I didn't see anything about posted times or like any. I don't think they're even pushing for times. They're just kind of taking it around the track and just testing it. So that'll be interesting, cool to watch. American cars finally getting the European game, or taking on the Europeans with a proper sports car. So that will be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's about time. I'm really excited to see what happens with that. You know, I get that patriotic pride with the Ford GT. That car is fantastic. But I feel like a lot of my automotive fandom goes towards cars that aren't built in the United States, which is unfortunate because, you know, having pride in something that your country produces is great.
Yeah.
And American cars, you know, have been awesome traditionally, and they're getting a lot better, but like we don't have as much to pick from as the Europeans and the Japanese do in terms of, you know, exciting cars to hold national pride towards. So I'm excited. I hope to see that this Corvette will eventually enter in some sort of GTLM class racing. It'll replace the current Corvette C7Rs that are out there, and it'll be side by side with the new Ford GT and, you know, all the cars that compete in that class.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting. I can't wait. And then the old price of Corvettes are just gonna go down,
I know. That's great.
or up too,
Why?
depending if
because
people
they'll
like
be more rare?
More rare front engine, rear wheel drive. You know, actually, they're not gonna go up. Maybe the ZR ones
Maybe years from now.
years from now, but no, they're just gonna dip. I mean, that's just it's American.
Once
car.
the market gets saturated with mid-engined Corvettes, once those are like commonplace, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's, you know,
But for now,
that's a ways away.
yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm all for it. American pride. Speaking of American pride, this actually has nothing to do with American pride, but I was in Idaho this last weekend, my cousin's wedding. Idaho's a very different place.
I've never been.
You've never been?
Never been.
You've never been? Dude, I went whitewater rafting for the first time.
Yeah?
And I went like years ago as a kid. I don't count it. But my God, that is so much fun. Like whenever I visit some place like Colorado or Idaho, anywhere where you're just outdoors, you see mountains, you're just like, whoa, what am I doing here in Illinois? You're just like, I have the chance to like easily move out there for cheaper living. Living costs all around, it would just be cheaper, and I have mountains all around me. And whitewater rafting, you can just go whenever you want, or kayaking. And Idaho, I found it has the
What's their skyline like, though?
skyline in Idaho, Boise, which is where I was like.
What's the Boise skyline like these days?
It's
A lot of skyscrapers?
like
A lot of good architecture?
Two 20-story buildings, three 20-story buildings. The architecture's not that great there. Boise State, though, the college was like, I went out one night, me, my sisters, and Olivia, and like it was a lot of kids were out. It was a fun time, but being able to just be outdoors and just go out there, like, what are we doing here? And then I went to a peregrine falcon like museum / habitat, like a rescue habitat.
I saw that. It looked cool.
Dude, I've never seen an American eagle in person. They are massive.
Dude, they got like 6-foot wingspans.
Dude, it was at least 2.5, 3 feet tall, and just like you stared at it and like
Those bitches can lift goats off of mountains, dude. Have you ever seen that video?
yeah, dude, they fed it at one point, and it was like feeding rodents, and I think another smaller bird they like fed it, and like it just sat there and was just grabbing it in the claws, like cracking bones. I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, oh my God, and I was just
Their
thinking,
talons are like
oh, they're massive.
the size of my hand.
Harpy eagles, which are the biggest eagle in the world, those are like 3 feet like tall and stuff. Their claws, so we have about 150 to 200 pounds of squeezing force. Like, so if you squeeze your hand really hard, all that per square inch is about 200 pounds.
That's a lot.
That, like,
More than
yeah.
I thought it would be.
I mean,
honestly.
think about if grabbing someone. If you ever get grabbed really hard at death grip by someone, it can hurt you, right? Like, ow, like that hurts. Someone grabs your wrist.
How often are you getting death gripped by people, Steven?
You know.
When is this happening?
You know what I'm into. But no, so harpy eagles can do 1,500 pounds or more.
What?
Dude, their diet is monkeys in South America. They just take monkeys by their heads and just crush their heads and walk away and just fly away with them. I'm not kidding. Their main diet is monkeys.
That's their main source of nutrition.
Main source of nutrition is monkeys. They just fly and just take them by the head and just.
I don't know why I find that so funny.
Dude,
that's
yeah, I
hilarious to
didn't
me.
know the eagle. I'm like, oh, it's gonna go for a rodent or a goat at most, and it's like, nope, they go after monkeys.
They probably tasted
Other-
monkeys some
other-
point and were like, wow, these
other
are way better
primates.
than mice.
Do you so like do you remember red-winged blackbirds? You know those territorial birds while golfing?
Oh,
Those-
my buddy Kyle.
Kyle, yeah, that-
Kyle despises those
Those
birds.
birds.
He's
And-
been attacked in the face and in the neck, and he is, yeah.
I got attacked by one not long ago at the skate park, and they like fly above you and they're annoying. You're just like, ah, and like I got my fists up. I literally got up in the air and I started punching at it, and I hit it and stuff, and it flew away. And finally I was like, all right, it's cool, I got you. I'm sitting there, I'm like, if a hawk comes at you or an American eagle, you're fucked.
Unless you have like a tennis racket or like
No,
a net.
no, screw that. You're done.
I feel like
care
with
if
a
you're-
tennis racket, I can defend myself,
Dude, those bitches are like 15, 20 pounds with pure muscle and just crunching power. Your tennis racket, nah. That bitch will just come at you and peck you in the head.
I feel like I could fuck up an eagle with a tennis racket.
Maybe. I mean, I would have a tennis racket over my hands. Like, oh my God. But if a hawk, I'm thinking those red-winged blackbirds are pretty quick and they're annoying and they peck at you. And,
Dude, if one of those hawks gets one talon on you, forget about it.
oh my God, 1,500 pounds
Forget
of
about
force
it.
on your shoulder, just that takes monkeys' heads.
We're talking monkey head crushing power here.
Yes, it's insane. Other primates just get wrecked by flying machines, and we're just like, oh my God. I was just thinking, I was like, if I got attacked by one of these, I'd be done. Like an eagle.
Thankfully, we don't live in a territory where we are, predator or
right.
prey for any sort of large flying beasts.
And then there was condors, which are like, they basically look like, what do you call those birds? Vultures? They just look like vultures, basically. I think they are vultures. I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention to our guide because I was hungover. But yeah, those are horrifying birds. They're really big and tall.
Condors?
Condors. And like,
are they scavengers? Like,
yeah, scavengers.
so that's not that scary.
No, but like they have been known, they bite people and stuff. They'll like attack people in the wild and stuff. But I was just thinking, like in the desert, which is where they primarily like hang out, and they just wait for like an animal to get dehydrated and fall, and they're just like, let's go, and they just go in and just start pecking away and like clawing at them. I was just thinking, like, could you imagine being stuck in a desert and just seeing them fly overhead, and you're just like,
They're just waiting.
and you're
That's why
you're
it's
out
one of
of
the most common film tropes ever. You look up and you see the scavengers circling over.
yeah, and I can't imagine just like you're on your last breath, you're just crawling, just dehydrated, and you just see those things like start landing around you and just walking towards you. You're just like, and they just have that like ugly head that's just like weird, like just dinosaur look.
Saggy skin.
Just oh my God, that'd be so terrifying. But anyway, that's Boise.
Yeah.
Terrifying
Boise.
birds and rapids
And beautiful
water.
scenery.
Beautiful scenery.
What were the people like in Boise?
They're all right. They're slow. I just slow.
I just love.
I just slow. They were kind of slow. Like you'd just be like ordering food and they're like, okay, and they just like disappear, and you're just like, all right, cool. Or like you're making like coffee and like they're literally just like in slow motion doing the machines. Whereas here in the Chicago, everyone's just fucking getting shit ready for you. And it's like, cool, on your way, off to your day, off to your job. You got stuff to do. There's like, we got nothing here, dude. We're just chilling. We got mountains and falcons. Like that's all we have here.
We're just trying to make sure we don't get our heads crushed.
But then, oh my God, I got kicked out of 2 bars.
Yikes.
Yeah. Well, again, I got kicked out of 2 bars, which is kind of obnoxious. Yeah, people, I don't know. It was weird. I liked Idaho, or like I liked Boise, but then part of me was just like, people were like really weird and just like, I don't know. It was a different vibe. And yeah, once I like told people, like, yeah, we're from Chicago, they weren't very like, yeah, welcome. They're kind of just like, oh, okay, cool. And there's like, I don't know, maybe they were just super local yokels, but yeah, that was my experience in Boise, Idaho.
So how'd you get kicked out? I gotta know.
This was okay. So, oh my God, this was a nutty story. My date to the wedding, Olivia, she was talking to one of the local girls. She said something, and like it was misinterpreted, and I don't exactly know what happened. The girl I wasn't even listening to the conversation. The girl misinterpreted and started like kind of like getting like defensive, like, and stuff. And this guy was with the other girl, I was with Livia, and like me and the guy talked like, yo, let's just walk away, let's split this up.
Squash.
Just go about our day. Anyway, at some point, the girl got really upset again. Olivia's in the bathroom, and the girl took a whole plate of forks and knives and just flipped. It was like one of those big trays where you have forks, knives, and spoons, and there's a bunch of napkins. It was like someone in the restaurant had to like wrap the napkins and everything up. It was like getting that ready. The girl took the whole thing of forks and knives, flipped it in the air, and just forks and knives rained all over the bar. So all the whiskey, all of the like vodka, everything in the back of the bar just got littered with forks. The entire restaurant.
Why? Why would you do that to a place that you work in? Man?
Yeah, and the girl worked, but the girl was a bartender there. She was just off duty. And like, it was just, it like flipped everything. Forks and knives rained down all over the entire back of the bar. And there's two bartenders working. They stare at me. The entire restaurant and bar just stares at me and this girl.
Good. Check, please.
And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, dude. So then the bartender comes and he's like, what the fuck? He thought I did it. And he's just like, get the fuck out of my bar.
You got the face like a guy that would do something like that.
He's like, get the fuck out of my bar. And then the other bartender who saw it was like, dude, that wasn't him. Stop. That was her. And he's just like, the guy, like owner was like, he didn't know what was going on, and he's like, get out of the bar. And the girl's like, I'm sorry. And then the other bartender who saw it was like, just get out of the bar, just leave. Like seriously, like just leave, like whatever. So I didn't even like pay my tab or anything. I just like got Olivia out of there. I'm just like, what the fuck just happened? She just flipped everything in the bar. It was a nightmare.
What a legend.
And like, yeah. And then the second bar, I forget why we got kicked out. I don't know. Security just grabbed both of us and just escorted us out. They thought like me and her were like too drunk. I'm like, dude, I'm like 7 drinks deep for the last like 4 hours. Yeah. Like, it's like, yeah, that's 2 drinks an hour. It's like, dude, I'm fine. But there's like, dude, you're too drunk. I'm like, okay, fine. Don't take my business. Like,
how does anyone ever argue back? They're like, no, I'm not too drunk.
Exactly. And like, I was really calm with them. Like, dude, we're just getting a beer, man. Like, I don't know. Like, everyone else is dancing and like drunk and in groups and around us, like yelling, and like, I'm just quiet at the bar getting a beer, and they just like grab me and take me out. I'm like, okay, like cool,
doing their jobs.
So that was Idaho. It was fun though. I actually had a great time. It was great. Whitewater rafting was a blast. But yeah, that's what I did this weekend. But
yeah, whitewater rafting is cool. I did about 20 seconds worth of whitewater rafting on the Jordan River, but that's, just about it.
And at one point I got out of the boat and went through one of the rapids, just swam through a rapid. And it was called, the reason they allowed it was a constriction rapid. So the river just narrowed, and because all the water got, constricted through this path, it just got very rough and everything. But the rocks were 3 to 4 feet down under, so like it wasn't like the rapids were being created by massive rocks right on top. Mm-hmm. They're all being created like 3 or 4 feet down. So as long as you kind of lay back and just kind of float and you have your life jacket on, you're fine. So I got like pummeled through the rapids. I got like shoved underwater a few points.
That'd be perfect GoPro footage.
I thought about it, and I was thinking, should I bring my phone? But then I was like, nah. So I didn't even bring my phone. No one brought a phone on our boat. So it was just like out of technology, in nature. Mm-hmm. But I don't even know if this thing would even last, this little Android device.
I think can hardly take a text message, let alone some rapids.
Dude, let me tell you.
I just want to take a moment to say, anyone that make this essential phone is a douchebag, because this phone sucks.
Number one, you're speaking to Andy Rubin, who is a previous CEO at Google and one of the creators of Android itself. So
well, Andy,
he's not a douchebag.
He dropped the ball on this one, Andy.
He did. I can talk. So I switched to Android a little while ago, and I could talk about. Should I just get into the talk now? I don't know why not. So, when the iPhone 10 came out, it was $1,000, and I needed the extra memory, which is 256 gigabytes, which was $1,150, plus Apple Care because I dropped my phone a lot. And at the end of the 2-year cycle, I always like to get a new phone or just say, oh, my battery is broken. They give me a brand new one. So all in all, after tax, it was $1,487 out the door for a new phone. And I sat there and I was like, I don't need that. I looked at the iPhone 8 Plus, which you have. Mm-hmm. You have the 8 Plus.
Yep.
At 256 gigs, I think is 900 or 1,050 or something. It's basically 1,000.
This is a 64 gig. This phone was like $800.
So $950 for that, plus Apple Care, which is $200. Tax, it was like $1,300 essentially.
Yuck.
So I sat there with the 8 Plus. I'm like, I like the 8 Plus, kind of big. I wanted the iPhone 8, but I'm like, dude, I have a 6. It's the exact same thing. So I ended up going with Android. I made the mistake of buying a kind of very niche phone. Only 150,000 of these or so have been sold.
Too niche.
It is beautiful, ceramic titanium, but I tried out Android, and honestly, if anyone wants to try out Android, go with a Samsung or an LG. I think people will be pleasantly surprised. So far, I've actually had a great time with the Android experience. The operating system is very close to Apple. It's 95% what Apple is. There's a few more crashes. Apps don't
Tons of stupid shit you can't do. Tons of it.
Name it. Oh, tons. Let's go.
Like that stupid thing that you're showing me when you scroll, and like there's that Apple proprietary thing where like it bounces and reloads or something.
Yeah, I mean, you literally just did it on your own phone.
I use that all the time.
So there's little things that, yes, Apple, I think this is, and I got this for $500 or $400 on sale, but then I had a $70 coupon I got for $330. This phone goes for about $400 today or less.
Except for the fact that they're out of business.
Yes, Essential. Essential went out of business. I went with a phone that was very niche and ended up going out of business, but if I think I went with LG or Samsung, I would have had a much better time. And there's a few things like photo sharing through AirDrop that Apple has, which is magical, legendary. That is one of the greatest features, especially as a photographer, taking lots of pictures, videos, being able to just go phone to phone through their Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and just zing it right over. That's magical. That is something that I was like, at the wedding, I had a bunch of photos on my DSLR camera. I'm just like, I have to like get it through Drive and do all this stuff because the app isn't updated for Android. It was annoying. But I predict in the next 5 years, Apple's going to be in a lot of trouble, even sooner.
Bold claim.
And here's why. So, like I said, I got this Android for $500. Then there's the OnePlus 6T. OnePlus is a Chinese company. There's Huawei, there's Xiaomi, Honor, and there's a few others that are just starting to enter the market from Chinese companies. These companies... Well, hold on one second. And here's why. I'll explain why with the market share and with the big upcoming countries or the BRIC nations, why Apple's going to be in
What do you mean the BRIC
trouble.
nations?
BRIC nations are Brazil, like India, countries that BRIC stands, it's an acronym for something. But they're the upcoming kind of third world going to first world countries.
So countries that are mid-industrialization.
Correct. So those are the BRIC nations. And Africa is entering like the kind of the BRIC nation stage too. So right now, Apple is having a hard time hitting those nations. So China, Apple's market share started growing a little bit in 2014 or so with the iPhone 6, iPhone 5 or so, but now it's dropped dramatically. India, Apple just can't get into India because demographic-wise, socioeconomic-wise, India just, people don't have the money for an Apple phone. Mm-hmm. Also, there's tariffs and bartering stuff where Apple phones tend to be a lot more expensive. So your $800 Apple phone here, equivalent in rupees or rupees, would be like, $1,000, $1,100. There's some issues with trade. And Apple doesn't make any of their own products. So the only thing Apple truly produces by themselves is the frame of the phone. Other than that, the motherboard, the logic board, all the processors, the camera, the screen. The screens are made by Samsung or Sharp or LG processors. Used to be made by Samsung, now made by TSMC, a company called Taiwanese Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. The sensors are made by Sony. Nothing Apple has on their phone is actually made by them. They're all made by third-party Chinese manufacturers or Korean manufacturers. So these Chinese companies, all these third-party run companies who are all state-owned, all of a sudden, like OnePlus, Xiaomi, Honor, and Huawei came in and said, let's make our own companies. All of the own parts that are going into even Korean phones and these American phones are all made by us. Why don't we just make our own phones? So in the last, 5 years, those companies came about. The phones were honestly just shit when they first came out. But now, and I'm sure if anyone follows technology, these new phones are incredible. They are taking down the Koreans, the LG and Samsungs, Apple is having a hard time competing with them, and they're now just starting to use. They used to use Kirin chipsets, which is Kirin's a company that made chipsets, or smaller, lesser-known Qualcomm chips, and Qualcomm makes the Snapdragon processors that are in your Samsung and LG and in my Essential phone. So at first, these Chinese phones had these slower chips that weren't as nice, and that's why Samsung, LG, and Apple still had an edge in the market and had a premium for their prices, and going from $700 to $1,000. Now, these Chinese manufacturers are starting to make phones cheap enough and actually put Qualcomm Snapdragon chips in. They're starting to use Sony sensors in their phones. Just like this new Huawei Poco F1 phone, it's called. That's a $300 phone using the same processor and a very similar logic board as a Samsung Galaxy S9, brand new S9. Or they're using the same Sony sensors, very similar sensors, as Apple or as Samsung.
Interesting.
And they're all $300. And OnePlus T makes a phone that is it's a $500 phone that absolutely rivals Samsung and LG. And I guess Apple, but it's another operating system. So India, all they're buying now is Huawei, Honor, Xiaomi, and OnePlus. China, same thing. Apple is just absolutely dropping in market share. Now, with these new Apple phones, they have the iPhone S, presumably, which is the iPhone 10 or the iPhone XS. And they'll have the XS Plus, and then Apple coming out with their kind of new in-between phone. Do you know about this?
Well, it's supposed to come out in a couple of weeks, no?
September 12th will be the keynote, but Apple has their 3 phones now. They're all going to look like the iPhone 10. And it's rumored that they're dropping the price of the XS, so it's going to be $900 instead of $1,000. Yeah.
Stop the presses.
The 6.1-inch LCD model, so the other one's OLED, that's going to be, they're guessing $750. Maybe it'll hit $700. That's the guess. And then the XS Plus was what they might call it. That is going to be maybe $1,000 to $1,050 to $1,100, somewhere in that range.
I want that.
So, yeah, it'll be a cool phone, but
I want OLED.
Apple is going to have a really hard time because those nations are where the biggest growth is. I mean, the smartphone market as a whole has stagnated. It's about hit 1% growth per year, whereas before it's hitting 5% every single year, 6-7% every year. So Apple is now entering a market where you can get these incredible Android devices. You can't argue anymore that these phones are 95% of the operating system, 95% of the hardware and phone. The cameras are almost just as good, but you're getting 95% of the phone for 30% of the price, 40% of the price. Why would you buy any? Why? And I'm going even towards Samsung and LG. Why would you buy these $700, $800, $900 phones?
Because they can reliably send text messages. I can't tell you guys how many times I've had to call Steven, and I've called him 4 times in a row, and I'm like, what is this guy ignoring me? And I send him a text message like, dude, why didn't you answer my call? And you're like, I didn't get the call.
That is this phone, this Essential phone specifically. But there's a huge, massive shift in the market right now with technology, consumer electronics, where people are starting to finally realize that, guess what? These Apples and Samsungs aren't worth it anymore, especially Apple.
Well, that's a good thing, honestly. Even as an Apple user, I think that's a good thing.
And this Poco phone from Huawei, $300, $845.
Why is it called the Poco? Is that an acronym or?
Well, it's called the Poco F1, which I don't know why it's called Poco. That's stupid marketing. But it's called the F1 because ONE phone, PHF, F1 phone, same things. This is called the Essential PH1, PH. ONE phone, Essential phone.
So creative.
Yeah, I know. But so that's, the kind of my rant is that Apple's going to have a lot of issues. And also, Apple owns 86% of the profits in the cell phone industry. Yeah. So the margins on Apple phones, the iPhone 10 was about $370 to manufacture. And they sell it for $1,000. The Samsung S9,
Talk about profit margins.
They sell for $850, but the Samsung, it takes them about $400 to $500 estimated to make. So they're only making about $200 off each phone, whereas Apple's making $500 or more. So Apple owns 86% of all the profits in the mobile phone industry.
I'm cool with I'm cool with chewing away at those profit margins a little bit.
But hopefully
Apple, these Chinese companies produce some kick-ass phones that really challenge Apple, drive the prices down.
This is where Apple's going to have to either change. either they're going to start losing more market share, whereas Android adoption's been 5% growth, and Android owns 80% of the entire cell phone industry. Not many people know that. The entire world is Android, except Australia and North America is iOS dominated. So Apple's either going to have to cut their margins a little bit and just accept that we're going to lose some margin. So their $700 phone, they're going to have to bring it down to $600 or less to compete. Or they're going to have to come out with new products to go along with their phones to really cement people in the ecosystem.
Whatever happened to the whole thing with like the iPhone like 5C or something, where they were making it a cheaper version of the phone?
So the issue there was, I thought the iPhone 5C was a great phone, but they didn't. Then it was only $100 cheaper. Mm-hmm. That's all. And it offered the almost same exact internals as a 5. It had the same internals as a 5 when the 5S came out. So that 5S had a much faster processor, 64-bit architecture, great camera, aluminum, nice premium feel, or you could buy the 5C, which was
old, outdated tech.
Outdated tech, and it was only $100. And everyone was just like,
plastic.
Everyone just looked at both of those and said, why would I buy the 5C when I can just spend $100 more over this 2-year period and get just every category a much better phone? There's no arguing about it. So Apple screwed up there. That's why with this new, I don't even know, iPhone 9, I don't know what to call this little middle end. I don't know what Apple will call it. We'll find out September 12th. That has to be $700 or less, or else people are going to be just looking at the iPhone 9 or the 10s or the 10s Plus, or people will start switching to Android, which is shown, the statistics have shown people have been switching over to Android. And Apple to Android adoption has grown 5%, whereas Android to Apple has been like 1% adoption.
Yeah.
So Apple, they have to drop their margins, or they have to come out with newer products that truly blow our mind, just like the iPhone was 10 years ago, to cement people in the Apple ecosystem.
That's impossible. I feel like, I mean, how could they come out with anything that would blow our minds anymore? Unless it was something where we're getting into like 3D phones or some sort of holographic projection. They have to go to something crazy to actually blow people. Everyone's so complacent with, you know. When I got my iPhone 8 Plus, I was like, this is so fast. This is awesome. The camera's great. Now I'm like, oh, these photos are kind of shitty. Like, I feel like every time something new and improved comes out within a short duration, I'm like, okay, where's the next cool thing? And that's unfortunately the way that the industry works.
That's the issue with Android too. All Samsung phones, it's like you still get a square, you might get a nicer screen, nicer camera, faster. Other than that though, it's the same.
They're not reinventing the wheel anytime.
That's the thing. A lot of people want the wheel to be invented, including me. But where that's going to go, I don't have an idea about it. I really don't know.
All I know is competition is a good thing.
It is.
So hopefully that'll drive Apple to do something more innovative, and if at the very least make their products more affordable across the board.
Yeah, and Apple, they need to do something. They're the first company to hit $1 trillion valuation like August. I don't even know what it was.
You want to know why they hit $1 trillion? Those stupid iPhone chargers that fray at the charging thing every time.
That's
their entire profit margin right there. Man.
You know what I think is their second biggest profit margin other than the iPhone 10? Dongles. Yeah. Dongles.
I know all about
dongles. Their dongles, they make more money off dongles than they do off MacBooks.
I bought a $2,000 brand new MacBook, you guys. This thing is the best one that you could possibly get for 2017, but it doesn't have any USB ports on it. So when I wanted to just sync my, at the time, brand new iPhone 8s Plus to the brand new MacBook, there was literally no inconceivable way that I could plug them together without buying an external dongle to adapt a USB. That is asinine.
Yeah.
That was like a slap in the face as a consumer to spend that much money on the premium product and a second premium product and get screwed over as a consumer by saying, oh, well, you know, the dongle's only $20, man. It's not that big of a deal. Screw that, dude. You should throw it in the box with the MacBook if you know it's not going to connect.
Apple knows that. They know that you'll spend money on it. That's why they took the headphone jack out, because they know that they bought Beats, which is a headphone company. Wireless headphones are the future. So that's why they took it out. There's no other reason. If Apple just put in a dongle, or let's say you got a MacBook, you have one dongle of choice, or a MacBook Pro, which is a $2,000 computer, you had two dongles of choice. If Apple just said you have 2 free dongles to choose from in their entire collection, no one would complain.
No.
But Apple didn't, because they were making billions of dollars per quarter just off dongles.
That dongle was like $17.80 something, and I wasn't like too upset